We are here as the Home is Here campaign because this Sunday, June 15th, DACA is turning 13. DACA is becoming a teenager. Woo! Through over a decade of court challenges and attacks from anti-immigrant politicians, we, the people, have been the ones to keep DACA alive. 13 years ago, DACA became a beacon of hope. It promised that young immigrants could dream, live, and thrive without fear. But today, as we witness with outrage and heartbreak the rising wave of cruelty, ICE arrests without warrants, mass deportations without due process, and terrifying raids from Los Angeles to Boston, we are reminded that this fight is about all of us. It's about the kind of country and the kind of world we are willing to stand up and build. A world where no one fears being turned from their home, their job, or their loved ones. A world where dignity, justice, and humanity prevail. Now, more than ever, we must rise together to defend immigrant youth, to protect our families, and to demand a future where everyone belongs. The vast majority of undocumented students today do not have DACA and are vulnerable to immigration enforcement. In recent weeks, this vulnerability was made painfully clear with the detention of Jimena Arias Cristobal, a 19-year-old Georgia college student, and Marcelo Gomez da Silva, an 18-year-old Massachusetts high school student, both of whom are young immigrants but not protected by DACA. These cases underscore the program's limitation and the urgent need for congressional action, especially in the midst of escalating threats against our lives. What we've seen in recent weeks, and especially this past weekend in Los Angeles, the deployment of National Guard and Marines to our streets, far beyond the limits of legal authority, is not about safety. It's a deliberate move to intimidate, to escalate violence against our communities, and to lay the groundwork for mass deportations across this country. This is just the tip of the spear. The writing on the wall could not be clearer. We must come together, we must organize, and we must deliver permanent protections now. The Home is Here campaign is deeply grateful to have the support of champions like Senator Durbin and Senator Padilla, Representative Sylvia Garcia and Representative Delia Garcia, all whom are here today to once more commit to this fight to win protections for immigrant youth and our families. I also want to express our deep gratitude for our Home is Here partners and allies, NILC, CASA, Forward.us, Voto Latino, CARE, Make the Road, and so many others who advocate and mobilize in defense of our people day in and day out. Can we give them a shout out? Woo! Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, California Senator Alex Padilla. Woo!
Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, especially all the youth leaders, all the advocates, all the activists who have kept this movement going. I want to thank my colleague, Senator Durbin, and of course, Representatives Garcia and Ramirez, and everyone here at the Home is Here Coalition, and of course, all the dreamers who are sharing their stories. It's always been so moving and inspirational to hear their stories. It's always taken courage for them to share their stories, but especially in the times that we are living in right now, it is both more courageous and more important. You know, time and again, when things go bad for Donald Trump, and they're going bad between the failed tariff wars and this horrible budget reconciliation bill coming through Congress, whenever things are going bad and he needs to distract, whenever he needs to change the subject, his classic playbook is to demonize immigrants and blame immigrants, scapegoat immigrants for all his problems. Even when he's embarrassed about his breakup with his BFF Elon Musk, he turns to attacking immigrants. We know that throughout the country, from the beginning of his term, we've seen illegal deportations. We've seen his administration ignoring due process. Now we see ICE raids in my hometown of Los Angeles, California. And so this week, as we should be celebrating the 13th anniversary of DACA and our unfinished business, I understand the fear that hundreds of thousands of dreamers have because they feel even more at risk. Dreamers are our neighbors. Dreamers are our loved ones. Come on in, Dick. We've been singing your praises, and we look forward to hearing from you. Dreamers are Americans in every single way, except one piece of important paperwork, and that includes over 160,000 DACA recipients in the state of California. But it's the case now because of Republicans in Congress's not just failure to act, but refusal to act. Dreamers deserve to not live in a state of fear. They deserve to be protected. We've made the case for years. We know it's not just a moral issue. We're making the point that this is an economic issue too. Because if you were to take away the work authorization for hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients, Republicans would be shrinking our workforce as we're trying to grow our workforce and grow our economy. They need to understand that dreamers, in addition to being our neighbors and our loved ones, are also teachers and caregivers, nurses and doctors, small business owners. Dreamers are hardworking members of the community, and they pay taxes just like the rest of us. For our nation and for our economy, they deserve peace of mind. And that's why we need to pass the DREAM Act, championed by Senator Durbin for so many years. Because it's not just temporary protections that dreamers deserve. They need permanent protections and a pathway to citizenship. It's the least that we can do for all their contributions to our country. Quisiera entregar unas palabras en español también para las cadenas bilingües. Quiero darle las gracias al liderazgo, a nuestro campeón, el senador Durbin, del estado de Illinois, y los congresistas García y Ramírez, todos los organizadores de Home is Here Coalition y todos los Dreamers que están aquí compartiendo sus historias, sus experiencias, porque en este tiempo, este ambiente político es hasta más importante y hasta más difícil, viviendo las amenazas de la administración Trump. Desde el principio de su término, desde el 20 de enero hemos visto tantas detenciones, deportaciones, una administración ignorando el proceso debido de tantos inmigrantes, nuestros derechos fundamentales. Y lo triste, lo trágico es que cada día que le va mal al presidente, hay mucho que le va mal en este momento, él se descarga en atacando a la comunidad inmigrante, tratando de culpar a los inmigrantes por todos sus problemas. Y no lo vamos a dejar. Nos vamos a defender, porque sabemos el valor de la comunidad inmigrante. Esta semana deberíamos estar celebrando el aniversario de DACA y tomando pasos para adelante, no solo para mantener el programa de DACA, sino acciones legislativas para entregar protecciones permanentes para inmigrantes, un camino a la ciudadanía para los inmigrantes que lo merecen y contribuyen tanto a la economía de nuestro país, como trabajadores, como consumidores, como empresarios. Pero vamos a seguir en esta lucha, no solo por los esfuerzos legislativos del miembro del Senado y del Congreso, pero por las voces, el ánimo y la fuerza del pueblo, el movimiento de Dreamers, el movimiento de tantos inmigrantes. Muchísimas gracias por su liderazgo, por sus voces y por sus acciones. Seguiremos luchando hasta la victoria. Gracias. I'm going to take the honor, I'm sorry, not sorry, to introduce my friend, my colleague, someone who's welcomed me, taken me under his wing since I arrived in the Senate in 2021 and was appointed to the Senate Judiciary Committee. I get to serve as, well, now the ranking member, no longer the chair of the Subcommittee on Immigration, but the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the champion longtime champion for the DREAM Act, Senator Dick Durbin.
It is difficult to take someone who is so tall under your wing. But I tell you, he is my partner in this effort, and he is a leader on the issue of immigration, and I'm glad to be his ally now in this announcement today. It was over 20 years ago that we discovered a gross injustice. A little girl brought to the United States at the age of 2, grew up in the city of Chicago in a poor family. She struggled through public schools, but she was a great skilled musician. She could play the piano, and she was going to apply for the Manhattan Conservatory of Music in Juilliard, and there was a question on the application, what is your citizenship? And she said to her mother, what should I put? Her mother said, I don't know. We never in any way tried to get you documented. You came in on a visitor's visa years and years ago. What can we do, she said. We'll call Durbin. So they called my office, my Senate office, and we checked on the state of the law then and now. And the law was very clear. Teresa Lee had to leave the United States for 10 years and apply to come back in. 10 years! This 18-year-old girl who only knew the United States as her home would have had to leave for 10 years. It didn't seem fair. She didn't make the decision not to apply for a visa. She didn't make the decision on documentation. Her parents made the decision. She led a good life. She was a good student, a great musician, and she deserved a chance. And that's why we introduced the DREAM Act more than 20 years ago. We tried our best to pass it in the Senate in many different ways. Sometimes we'd pass it in the Senate, the House wouldn't. Sometimes we couldn't get 60 votes, sometimes we could. We just couldn't get it through. And then a colleague of mine from the Senate by the name of Barack Obama happened to get elected to the presidency of the United States. And I wrote a letter to him and said, by executive order, what can you do to protect the dreamers? And after long months of work and preparation, they came up with DACA. And what you see behind you is DACA. Young people who are in the same situation who want a chance to be part of America's future. They've gone to our schools. They stood up every morning in the classroom and pledged allegiance to the same flag we pledge allegiance. And they aspired to be great and make America a greater country. That's what DACA is all about. Over 800,000 of them have qualified for protection under DACA. They've gone through background checks. They pay fees to get these clearance every 2 years, but they do what the law says and requires. Now, if you listen to some politicians, and I'm not going to name names, you would think that immigrants are rapists, terrorists, murderers, and mentally ill, sneaking into the United States to make it unsafe. Look behind me. These young people don't fit that category at all and never will. They are good, contributing people to the United States, and they want to do more. That's what DACA is all about. This anniversary should be a reminder that when we talk about immigration, it depends on a lot of different stories. My mother was an immigrant to this country. Alex, your parents are immigrants to this country as well. And here we sit in the United States Senate representing greater states like Illinois and California. And it's an indication to me that given an opportunity, many Democrats are going to prove they can make this a better nation all around. That's why we're here today, to remind our friends, Democrats and Republicans, that immigration has many faces. And the immigration we're talking about through DACA is a face that means a better and stronger America. I am still committed to the DREAM Act. I am still committed to DACA. I have said to them and will continue that until my last minute in the Senate, I will do everything in my power to pass DACA. It is time for us to do this to prove once and for all that we have no animus or opposition to immigrants. Those who do wrong by the United States should pay a price, but others deserve a chance. So it's been my honor to be part of this effort, and I will continue in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Padilla and Senator Durbin, for being with undocumented young people and our families. Up next, I would like to invite Aiden, who is a DACA recipient and undergraduate studying computer science.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being out here today as we mark the upcoming 13th anniversary of the DACA program. As Claudia mentioned, I'm Aiden, a college student studying computer engineering and also a DACA recipient. I've lived my entire life here in the DMV. I came to the U.S. when I was around 2 years old I have known no other country except America as my home. I'm an extremely active student on my campus, from being part of alumni boards, taking on internships, apprenticeships, to engaging in philanthropic fundraising. I've made it my mission always to find whatever ways I can grow as an individual, but also find ways to give back to my community. My goal is to use my degree to one day create a tech startup that is in the service of a community. Whether it's by creating jobs for people, allocating the financial resources of a startup to fuel foundations that support everyday working people and families, much like the one like me, or the one that I grew up in. My parents raised me to give back. They raised me as a Christian with strong morals and ethics and to do good for others. I want to do as much good as I can with the life I have, but I know that it's because of DACA that I have been able to show up for my community in the ways I've shared. DACA has allowed me to live a life without as many limitations than a non-DACA recipient would face. One of those things is the access to work here in the US. Without DACA, I could never have done internships and met the people I have met now. I could have never planned a future for myself centered on helping others. DACA is what has propelled me to a position where I can be a leader on my campus. The truth is, without DACA, I would be in the position that already many undocumented students who don't have DACA face today. I would have had to shift my focus and prioritize simply surviving in this country. DACA has given me protection. It's given me a safety net. It's empowered me to advocate for other students and fight for better resources on campus and not be as afraid to speaking out would mean being torn to the country that I love so much. DACA has allowed me to find my voice, to live free of the fear I know so many others feel without DACA. I have always felt an American in every way but on paper. The US has quite literally all I know. If I were to get deported, I would immediately struggle to survive. I'm someone who takes immense pride in being raised in the United States. While I have every reason to feel hatred after being discriminated against because of my identity, I've seen the ways hardworking people like my parents had to work twice as hard than the average person just to make ends meet. I still love this country. Like, I love it maybe even more than some Americans do. As we approach the 30th anniversary of DACA, this moment is a reminder that DACA recipients like me and our families are integral to this country. This is our home, just as much as it is yours. I know there's a way to deliver a pathway to citizenship. A pathway to citizenship would mean I would be able to do so much more and would end so many other 500,000 DACA recipients who call this country home would be able to do. My dream has been to go into public policy and create programs that ensure low-income individuals have the tools and resources they need to care for themselves and their families and make America a better, stronger place. But there's a chance that I could never do any of this without a pathway to citizenship. I commend the work that the members of Congress here with us today have done to champion a pathway to citizenship. And as I close today, I want to take this moment to urge their congressional colleagues to remember their responsibility about helping officials to serve communities. I have always gone about helping people in the ways that I can, despite the limitations of not having citizenship. Every day I make my community proud. I urge Congress to act the moment to serve communities and deliver a pathway to citizenship, because this moment is about all of us, not just DACA, but all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Aiden. We see you, we hear you, we love you. Up next, I would like to invite our representative, Delia Ramirez from Illinois. Woo!
Let me be clear. Home is here. Home is here. Home is here. That's right. That's right. Home is here. And when I say home is here, it also includes you here in the United States Capitol. I want to make sure people understand that dreamers are welcome here. Dreamers contribute to the entire nation, and I'm so grateful to be standing with you this afternoon. I'm Delia Catalina Ramirez. And yes, I'm a congresswoman, I'm a congresista. I represent Illinois' 3rd Congressional District. But I'm going to be honest with you, the most important thing you need to know is that I am the proud daughter of Guatemalan immigrants, that I'm a citizen by birthright, and I'm the wife of an incredible man who until recently was a DACA recipient, a dreamer. And I'm the congresista of a welcoming state that this fascist government attacks, but we will not allow to walk us back our love and our commitment to our immigrant communities. I want to start by acknowledging how difficult these last few months have been. They haven't just been difficult, they have been painful. Some of you are having to make safety plans for your community, for your family, for your immediate family. Some of you are asking, what happens if mom or dad is taken? ¿Quién va a pagar la renta? Who's going to take care of the mortgage? Who's going to go pick up the 7th grader or the kindergartner if in fact I'm not able to pick them up because I got abducted by ICE? Trump, Noam, Holman, Miller, and this whole regime has waged a campaign of terror against our neighbors, against our families, our loved ones, as they advance their fascist agenda and try to cast immigrants as a public enemy. Just last week in New York, in Chicago, and LA, masked ICE agents have ambushed immigrants outside of courthouses, restaurants. Sorry, this mic is a little strange here. Their workplace, kindergarten graduations, all our communities, just to create a sick propaganda that terrorizes our communities. And we know that their policies are dangerous and inhumane, that they're violating the rule of law, undermining due process, and putting immigrants, including DACA recipients, at grave risk. And they're being enabled by this Congress by authorizing millions of taxpayer dollars to the Department of Homeland Security for their terror tactics and introducing and voting for anti-immigrant legislation. Members of Congress who swear to defend DACA recipients and dreamers have put a target on them, on their futures and their well-being by voting for this legislation or voting for this funding. And at this moment, every member of this body has a choice to make. And I'm going to just say it, sin pelos en la lengua. Are you unapologetically pro-dreamer? Or are you out here voting for resolutions that congratulate ICE for violating our rights? Which one is it? Are you protecting those who dare to dream of a better life and have the courage to seek it out? Or are you too much of a coward to remember the dreams that led your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents to these shores? Are you pushing back on the fear-mongering that robs our neighbors of their dignity and questions their inhumanity? Or are you sitting quietly and comfortably by not resisting alongside our community? And listen, I frankly don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. We have to make sure that regardless of who you are, that we stand to prove that every dreamer, that every immigrant who calls our nation home, that they know that we stand with them because they're part and fabric of our nation. So on this 13th anniversary of DACA, members of Congress must finally affirm that dreamers and immigrants are seen, are valued, and they're integral to our communities. We have to pass the Dream and Promise Act now. And we must keep fighting fascism, authoritarian power grabs, kidnapping by masked ICE agents, and every brutal, inhumane immigration policy my colleagues, some of my colleagues here, want to advance. And let me be clear to everyone out here, not a single one of you needs any validation. You are strong. You are powerful. You are resilient. You are courageous. You have been defending our communities, this country, far before some of us got here into Congress. You are essential, you are precious, you are valuable, and you are powerful. And this congresista sees you. Whether you are my brother-in-law or a constituent, I see you. But you do need our solidarity. We need each member of this body to move the needle to real comprehensive immigration reform that reflects the values we claim as a nation. And so I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it unapologetically. We don't need bans. We don't need walls. We don't need raids. We don't need kidnappings. We don't need mass agents terrorizing our communities. We don't need military attacking our neighbors. We have to demand an end to the terror tactics. Punto. Period. I'll close by saying this. The unlawful actions used against immigrants today. Let me say this again. The unlawful actions used against immigrants today will be used tomorrow on anyone who this regime deems undesirable. Because fascism always demands a public enemy. And it is why we must stand with DACA recipients. We must also stand with their parents. We must also stand with their uncles and their sisters and their tias and our small businesses and our teachers and our LGBTQ community and every single person this regime is attacking. Because that is how we build the collective solidarity and makes us strong. And I want to end in saying to you that I am grateful for the leadership of the badass, unapologetic Congresswoman from Texas, Sylvia Garcia, who will continue to fight to make sure that we finally make this bill a reality. I'm committed to doing everything I can, and I can tell you, watching her on that House floor, so is she. So Sylvia, thank you for the ways that you continue to show up. Y a seguir trabajando until we finally get this bill across the finish line, and until we finally recognize that we can't be responding to a narrative of immigrants. We need to reshape it by affirming our commitment 100% with them. Gracias.
Home is here. 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 Thank you, Representative Ramirez. Up next, I would like to invite U.S. Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia from Texas. Woo!
Well, as stated, I'm Sylvia Garcia from Texas, the Houston area, but more importantly, I am the sponsor of the Dream and Promise Act. First, I do want to thank Congressman Durbin for being here. You know, he has been steadfast in his support of Dreamers and filing the DREAM Act here in the Senate. He is retiring, but I know that he lives a great legacy, and that will include being the grandfather, if you will, el compadre of Dreamers, because he's always been there with us. Of course, my friend Senator Padilla and I go back to our Naleo days. I always remember that when I left as president of Naleo, my successor was Senator Padilla. So we've worked together on this issue for many, many years, and it's just so great to be able to do that here with him in the Congress. And of course, my dear friend, Delia Ramirez, I mean, she said I was a badass. She's a chingona. I mean, she just is really tops for any area that she tackles, and I couldn't think of a better partner to work with me on all this very important legislation. Dreamers, soñadores, were brought this to the country through no fault of their own. When people talk about dreamers, they kind of tend to forget that children don't really have a choice of where they go. They kind of follow the parents, right? So all these people who talk punitively and harshly and cruelly about dreamers just don't know what they're talking about. The average DACA recipient was 6 years old when they arrived. 6 years old. That's not even, some places that's not even the first grade. For 13 years, we've told them, if you work hard, you go to school, you give back, then we'll make everything right. But it's not right. Unfortunately, we're still in lingo mumbo jumbo, and shamefully for me, the case is in Houston. So I watch it carefully. I know the judge. I've been a judge. I knew him when I was a judge. And we all just wait now to see what the final ruling will be from that court. But when kids grow up in neighborhoods, they don't think about status. They don't think about barriers. They don't think about color. they're very, very, very warm and welcoming. So our dreamers who grew up in our neighborhoods went to the same schools, they pledged to the flag of the United States of America, and they are in their heart, in their soul, and in their minds, they're American. Recently I went to northern Mexico to visit with a family that was deported from Texas with their 4 citizen children. Yes, citizen children were deported. And I was talking to one that was a high schooler. And I asked him, how do you feel? And he just felt, he told me in English, of course, because that's all he knows, because he's been a Texan for 13 years in this country legally, because he was born here. And he just said, you know, it's really hard because I really don't know anybody in the village where I live. I have no real connections except my immediate family. I can't even go to school because I'm an American and they don't let me go to school. We're still working on that. He said, I miss my friends. I miss reading my books. I miss my games. Because again, in their heart and soul and mind, they're American because they were born here. But dreamers are like that. They're American in their heart and soul, and that's all that they've known. Matthew tells us that when the Son of Man comes in glory, he will say, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Because whatever we do for the least of these, we do for him. That's what this nation should be about faith and community and basic decency here in our country. Even the convicted felon in the White House has said that that's not fair. The dreamers have been waiting too long. And I don't usually quote him. In fact, I don't think I ever have before. But on this, he's right. But he should go beyond his words, and he should stop what he's doing with the mass deportation efforts that he has and focus on dreamers who've contributed so much. He should ignore Stephen Miller and actually do something to protect dreamers. It's good for the economy, and it's good for our country, and it's good for all Americans. Since DACA was created, dreamers have contributed $13 billion, that's billion with a B, in state and local taxes. In Texas, my home state alone, they've added $16 billion to our economy every single year. But if we let DACA in, Texas would lose 2,600 jobs a month. That includes hundreds of healthcare workers and educators. So I ask, what kind of country sends away the people who make it strong, the people who contribute, the people who are there with their heart and soul working for America? Well, now we have an American Pope, someone who knows what it means to grow up here, to move, to build a life across borders, and he has said it best. And he said, quote, all of us in the course of our lives can find ourselves healthy or sick, employed or unemployed, living in our native land or in a foreign country, yet our dignity always remains unchanged. It is the dignity of a creature willed by a loved God. Dignity, that's what we're defending. Yes, we know dreamers contribute to the economy. Yes, they are the workforce relied on by many sectors. But the bottom line is, as the Pope has said, they are children of God. They deserve respect. They deserve more than uncertainty. They deserve stability. They deserve a pathway to citizenship. And now their story rests with us here in Congress. We can fix this. We have a bipartisan bill, the Dream and Promise Act, and the votes to pass it in the House today. 202 bipartisan sponsors. That's the most sponsors we've ever had on the bill. And it's bipartisan, meaning we do have Republican sponsor. We need to get this to the president's desk and hold his feet to the ground to keep his promise to do something for dreamers. We must choose a future when dreamers live not in fear, but with dignity and legal certainty. Now imagine, and I want everyone here behind me to imagine, wouldn't it be great to have a country where dreamers live free, raising families, building businesses, shaping this nation with grit, and hard work. And no matter how many bans, no matter how many rollbacks or political stunts, the felon of the White House throws at us, we're not going anywhere. We're here for the fight. We're going to keep fighting today and every day till we get this bill done. I have told my staff, even if they have to cart me up in a wheelchair, I'm going to keep working for you, because this country was built by immigrants. Their home is here, and we're not done until this promise of the American dream is real for them and everyone after them. Thank you, and I yield back to the host. God bless.
Everywhere we go, people wanna know who we are. So we tell them, we are the people, the mighty, mighty people, fighting for justice, and no more deportations, Woo! Thank you, Congresswoman. Up next, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mariana, a DACA recipient with Forward.us. Woo!
Hi folks, my name is Mariana, and I was 11 years old when I arrived to this country. For many years, the only thing I wished was to be normal. I knew that I wasn't, and like many movies, all I wanted to do was drive, go to school, and not hide my status from my peers. That's what DACA gave me. In many ways, it changed my life. Since receiving DACA, I have graduated from one of the top universities in the country, passed state and national legislation, serving the state of Florida as a legislative aide, and citizens of Miami. Heck, I even danced at the Latin Grammys. I really have done it all. And that's why today I stand confused, because I have done everything this country has told me to do. Every paperwork, every appointment, everything they told me not to, I haven't, and everything they told me to do, I've done. For 13 years, I have held my end of the bargain to go to work, go to school, pay my taxes, and stay out of trouble. And for those same 13 years, politicians have dangled my future for political gains, all while failing to pass a pathway to citizenship for people like me. Because of this inaction, dreamers across the country have been attacked by presidents, the courts, and states like Texas, who are aiming to take away our work permits, in-state tuition, and more. Everything that we fought for, everything that even members of this body have fought for. At this very moment, we are waiting for a judge to modify a decision that could even impact dreamers like me. That is how we live right now in limbo. One decision after the other. And that's just not a moral failure, that's an economic disaster waiting to happen. If DACA ends, the United States could lose over $400 billion in the next 10 years. That's hundreds of thousands of jobs, tax dollars, and gain powers gone. 500,000 dreamers will have their status ripped away, forced out of the workforce, and subjected to the threat of deportation, separating more than 1 million U.S. citizen family members. Like Senator Padilla said, those are nurses, our teachers, our doctors, our students, moms and dads. Americans understand that. They're on our side. Every time I speak with somebody, they're like, no, we don't want you to go. Over 70% of Americans support the pathway to citizenship for people like me. They want us to stay. They see us as part of this country because that's what we are. It's Congress that's behind. In many ways, I really got lucky. I came to the US at the right time, at the right age, and at the right year. But many others didn't. Some never qualified for DACA because they were too young when Trump froze the applications in 2017. They were ready to apply, they were eager to apply just like I was when I was young, and I wanted to just be normal. And they're still waiting because that door got slammed and hasn't reopened since. That was not only cruel, it was reckless. We are running on borrowed time. I am more scared today at the age of 31 with a degree in biology from the University of Florida, speaking 3 languages, than when I first came to this country and barely spoke English. The courts can't decide our futures forever. Congress must deliver what we've been promised for years, a pathway to citizenship, stability, and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Up next, we have Todd Schultz, president of Forward.us.
It's a little hot, so I'm going to be brief. It's an honor to be here. And I think we stand here today, and it's absolutely critical that anybody listening understand the thing that you can do is make clear not just that DACA has worked and been an incredible success, but that DACA shows why giving people that certainty, that legal status, that ability to work and live your life with just a little bit more certainty every day, single day, is absolutely critical for them, and it's critical for our entire country. And if you look at what's happening in Los Angeles, that is made clear. At its core, there is no city in America, there is no city that I know of in the world that has more dreamers, that has more people who've been locked out of the ability to earn permanent status, people who have lived in this country for decades. As the Congresswoman said, the average DACA recipient came to this country at the age of 6 and has lived here for a quarter century. Think about that for a second. People who came here on average at the age of 6, who have lived here for a quarter century. And DACA has, over the last 13 years, helped over 1 million people do extraordinary things, get a degree in biology, and also do very normal, boring things that many of us take for granted. What does it look like to wake up and not have to worry about, is it worth risking driving my kid to school? And when we look to Los Angeles and we see these efforts, let's be clear what they are. They are efforts to take a failed immigration system and weaponize it, to stoke fear and chaos and to provoke. And there is no good system when there are people who have for decades been locked out of the ability to earn status. At its core, the thing that DACA has shown all of us is that giving people the ability to work and live legally is the right step. It is the step in the right direction. Not just for DACA recipients and not just for dreamers, but for everyone here. And that's not going to happen today. We should be clear about that. But we have to do what we can to make that tomorrow. Were DACA to go away, the economic consequences would be devastating. But in the absence of that sort of status, it gives this president the ability to say, I am going to go into courthouses for people who are trying to follow the law. I'm going to go to a Home Depot. I'm going to go and try to stoke as much fear and division as possible. And we should push back against that. There is no excuse for weaponizing a failed immigration system. But DACA shows, the unbelievable, tremendous success of DACA shows that taking people out of that, giving people permanent status, which DACA is not, but is a step in that direction. Giving people that permanent status is not just good for them, but it reduces the ability to demagogue. It creates economic opportunity for everyone. And so as we sit here today and we see so much of what's going on, these efforts to stoke division and fear, yes, DACA has been an unbelievable success for DACA recipients. And yes, we need a DREAM Act, and we need a DREAM Act now. But this is also the thing that should show us all that the path forward ultimately needs to be not just a question of what we're seeing in Los Angeles, and not just a question of fear and division, but why a pathway to citizenship and permanent legal status for all immigrants who are building their lives here is the right way to go. So it's an honor to be here. It is an honor to get to work alongside DACA recipients. Our organization would not be what it was today. And I just want to say, I hope we can look and in this moment of pain and darkness understand this has been a shining light that we should aspire to. So it's awesome to be here today. I hope we can hold on to this, and home is here. So thank you.
Bravo!
Thank you so much, Todd. Up next, we have Diana from our Home is Here partner, the National Immigration Law Center. Woo! Give it up!
Hi, everyone. I am really grateful to be here with you all to celebrate DACA's 13th anniversary. DACA is a teenager. Woo! My name is Diana Pliego, and I am a senior campaign strategist at the National Immigration Law Center, but I'm also a former DACA recipient. I had DACA almost my whole adult life. And I feel so incredibly privileged to have been a recipient of the many life-changing things that I could have only obtained because of DACA. Because of DACA, I was able to go to college and complete my education. DACA brought me and my entire family of 6 out of poverty. It allowed me to work in jobs that aligned with my goals and ambitions. It allowed me to obtain my driver's license and drive to work without fear of a traffic stop going wrong and sending me to a country that I don't know. It allowed me to ultimately be where I am today. But I also want to share today a little bit about Daniel, a DACA recipient that I recently met who is also grateful to DACA and is a shining example of what DACA can open doors to. Because of DACA, Daniel was able to go to college. He became an Archer Fellow in Washington, D.C. and interned at the Embassy of Mexico in a law firm where he helped children apply for asylum. He worked on criminal justice reform, interpreted for victims of trauma, and taught ESL to custodians on his campus. Every single step of the way, Daniel has tried to give back more than he was given, and he is still trying to give back to his community. And all that he has accomplished and will accomplish would not have been possible without DACA. What breaks my heart is that Daniel lives in Texas, where soon he may not be able to get a work permit with his DACA thanks to a politically motivated lawsuit attacking the program. And I can relate to this uncertainty this leaves him with, because I too felt for many years the possibility of DACA going away. It was a constant horror on the horizon. We've been fighting to keep DACA and for a permanent solution for years, and still the only certainty that tens of thousands of Texans like Daniel face is that now they are likely to lose what has allowed them to make great strides and contribute to the communities where they live. This is unacceptable. So on today, on Sunday, on DACA's 13th anniversary, I want us to celebrate all the wonderful things that DACA has done for our communities. But I also want us to remember one very important thing. DACA is not enough. It never has been and it never will be. We need legislation. We need the Dream and Promise Act. And I cannot think of a more urgent time than right now. Over the past several weeks, we have seen our communities under attack in unprecedented ways. We are witnessing violent abuses of power in Los Angeles, California, and communities around the country. The images from this weekend and the past few weeks are in replay in my head. As I have tried to lay down to sleep this week, I have not been able to help but think of how those affected families are sleeping, or probably not. I see the images of fathers trying to be strong for their kids as they are handcuffed and taken to God only knows. I hear the children crying desperately, begging their dad not to go and for their mother to promise her that her dad is coming back, a promise that she could not make. I hear and see a young boy trying to be strong for his mom, assuring her that he is there for her as they are both taken away after attending an immigration hearing, of all things. The cruelty of this administration is constantly seeking new lows, and I know it weighs heavily among many of us. DACA recipients and immigrant youth are already getting caught up in these enforcement efforts as well. In today's Senate Spotlight hearing, we will be hearing from Jimena, a student with no protections even from DACA, who was unjustly caught in this net, all because of a mistaken traffic stop. Because again, DACA has never been enough. And for those of us who were lucky to have it or currently do, we know the truth. Anti-immigrant politicians will not stop until DACA is gone, and they're hoping to kill DACA by 1,000 cuts, quietly and largely lost in this noise around us of everything that's going on. It's already happening. And I remind you that this administration's goal is to strip people of protection so that we can all be subjected to deportation. So I thank you for being here today, but I implore you to also take action. Congress must pass a pathway to citizenship for all DACA recipients, immigrant youth, in our entire communities. We are beyond the point of urgency. We need words to become action, and we need allies in this fight of our lives for our communities and for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Up next, I want to welcome the president of Voto Latino, Maria Teresa Kumar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I recognize it's a little warm. Being warm means that it's a little generous. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. I want to begin by, whoops, what do we do with that? See, there's a pro. Just put your cell phone on it. I want to express my gratitude to the Home is Here Coalition. I can share with you that 13 years ago, Voto Latino stood side by side with Dreamers, and we worked very closely with folks in the White House with Obama, but also with a nonpartisan group of individuals. We worked with Senator Flake, with Rubio. We also met with Grassley. And I think it's important for us to remind, Lindsey Graham, excuse me. And I think it's important for us to remember that the very essence of DACA was to depoliticize humans and their contributions. Oftentimes when I go on the road, people say, well, we want people here the right way. Well, look here. They have done it the right way. Hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients have done it the right way. They have passed background checks. They contribute to their communities, and they continue paying it forward in some of the hardest jobs that I would say many Americans would look away from even trying. I have to share with you sometimes when you hear the stories, you often hear the stories of young people who have received DACA. But when I was on the campaign trail last year, I was stunned to meet someone who had been one of the very first DACA recipients in Arizona, and she was a grandmother. She was a grandmother, 44 years old, and a grandmother because she had believed that she could actually work as hard as she could, and eventually she too would have a pathway for herself and her families. And I want to take this moment to thank our allies who come out for us, because 70% of Americans, regardless of party, recognize that a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients is not just, but fair. What we see right now in Los Angeles, people marching in the streets, it's a multicultural America saying that they do not want their neighbors, their loved ones, their parishioners disappeared. That's not asking for very much. That's the bare minimum. On the anniversary of DACA, I want to remind the American people that elections have consequences. 25% of you decided to sit it out, decided not to vote. Your absence is daunting. We need you. Voto Latino has very proudly registered nearly 2 million voters, but we're not stopping because we need every single person present to talk about the values of America. The values of America are just, work with dignity, and asking every single person to self-realize regardless of documentation. And for those folks sitting at home, when you see the raids or when you see a neighbor, you know that's wrong. You know that's wrong. So the only way that we can stand up together in this moment is to call your member of Congress. Make sure they pass the current version of the DACA Act. Make sure that they know that you're being held to account. Make sure that they also know that you're going to vote in November. Y para las familias latinas, ahorita que tienen tanto temor, les agradezco el sacrificio y su visión. Pero también les digo un mensaje. Casi el 38% de nosotros que somos elegibles a votar, no votamos el año pasado. Estas son las consecuencias. Necesito que nosotros nos registremos, participemos, llamemos a nuestros congresistas, tengamos conversaciones francas con nuestras familias. Porque al fin y al cabo, esta gente joven, ellos representan los sacrificios que han hecho nuestros padres. A very clear message to the Latino community. 38% of us last year decided to sit it out because we thought our vote did not matter. These are the consequences. If you have any questions of what you need to do, call your members of Congress. Be supportive. Demand a pathway to citizenship because they've earned it. I look forward to seeing you all on the other side. We have 18 months. Register to vote at votolatino.org, and there's a lot of work to do. Thank you so much. And with that, I bring back to Claudia.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. So we're coming to the end of our press conference, but I do want to say a last few words. For 13 years, DACA has provided nearly 1 million people the ability to live, work, and contribute openly to the only country our people have ever called home. Together, we must fight for everyone in our communities Because our home is here. 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 Thank you everyone for coming out today. Woo!